Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor. Now it's time for your weekend tech tip, brought to you by Chevy Silverado.
Welcome back, everyone. We've got your Chevy Silverado tech tip of the week, and this one was actually because of a couple of questions. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that, again, I know I'm reiterating this, I really did. It was one of my toughest years last year for Chinook overall. It doesn't matter which run it was, I just had one of those tough years. Now, there's a lot of excuses as anglers that we're gonna use, right? And you heard me using them last year when I was up here whining and moaning that I wasn't catching any fish, right? Well, I certainly landed more unmarked fish than I did marked fish, so we'll leave it at that. So the question was, well, what do you mean by that? How are you going to be able to improve your odds? What are those little things? All right, so number one, I had the boat checked for being hot. Okay, now a lot of you understand what I'm referring to, but you that don't, there are times that a boat can become quote unquote hot, right? That there's a ground somewhere that the fish find as a deterrent, believe it or not, running down your rods, running down the line, and somehow scaring all the fish away. It's actually a thing. Now, back in the day in like 08, 09, when I interviewed Bob Tolman, bless his soul, he's no longer with us. He had 2 black boxes on the back of his boat, 2 deterrents of any sort of electrical, bad stuff, whatever you want to call it. That's how important it was to him. And he was one of the very, very best that has ever played this game. So that was number one. I tried to eliminate that. Guy White, thank you. He told me at least that it wasn't the boat, which was, darn it, the excuse that I was after. Number 2. My fishing line. We're all running braided line, right? A couple of ways that you can make sure that that line is not becoming an issue for you is the willingness to swap it out, okay, or changing how you have it rigged up. So here's the setup that I've got, just one setup that I've got. This is my herring rod, okay, right here. Now this is a 9'6". This is one of the original edge rods from when they first got started. It's a spiral wrap rod. It's a 9'6". I don't know the number offhand. 8 to 17 is the weight rating on this, and this is my herring rod. It's got a line counter on it, and of course, braided line. So what did I do? 2 different things that you can do to try to eliminate your line being a deterrent, because braided line can hold scent. Believe it or not, as it gets older, because this line that was on here originally was about 5 years old. Now, there's nothing wrong with that line, but if it gets some stink in it, if it gets different scents in it, well, that's certainly something that you have to be concerned with. Some of the very, very best salmon anglers out there really focus on that. It's one of the things that I've learned over the last handful of years, one of which was from Chris Pertopoulos, one of the very best that there is at it. He actually runs a monofilament or fluorocarbon bumper on there for a couple of reasons, but one important one is that it will at least, the way that I took it, help eliminate that scent, okay? Now, fish, remember, smell in parts per billion with a B, so they can smell everything. So what I did, as opposed to putting a bumper on there, I pulled off 300 feet of line, and then I added back on 350 feet of line, because the P line that I put on, I got it right here as a matter of fact, the X-Braid, which is all I'm running on all my rods now, in 50-pound, was a little bit thinner diameter than some of the older technology line that I had on there. So I filled the thing back up with that new line. So 4 of my herring rods all have just fresh line on it. That's how I was going to change how that rod's going to fish and take that excuse out of the scenario. Right now, taking a look at this particular one, this is the 360 rod. Now, I will admit, I'm not going to use a 360 rod for springers all that much. When I start getting into May, then, I'm still stuck on that temperature thing, situation, where you are, what the fish are doing. I might switch over a little bit earlier. But with this particular rod, I didn't have any issues. It was later on in the season I started getting bit. But I did the same thing. I swapped out the line, and I'm also going to swap out my bumpers that I was running last year, and I'm going to make sure that all of my flashers, all of my 360s, and Alan, let's get a shot with that Kershaw Tech Cam, please. This is the 360 rod that I'm running, mainly because it is in the back. Oh, no, excuse me, 9.2. This is the SAR, excuse me, 924-2. This is the Edge 360 Pro. It is a fantastic design specifically for 360s. But here's what I was doing. I was running flashers that I've been using for years. And probably not cleaning them or taking care of them as much as I should have. I guess what the bottom line is, what my theory is this year, is to make sure that everything's clean, that all my scent is under control, okay? And then I'm taking away all the little things that might make a fish that comes up behind your baits, whatever it happens to be, to refuse it. Now, if I can eliminate as many of those things as possible, fresh leaders, clean hooks, all that stuff, gloves, paying attention, your odds, again, should go up. It's a theory, right? And I'm sticking to it. One way or the other, I'm going to be more successful this year. I'm trying to eliminate the excuses. So there's your tech tip. I hope that helps out in some way. When we come back, we're going to have Kyle Dodson from Ore Angling. He's live on the coast, I'm told. That technology is actually working for us.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Yakima Bait, steeped in tradition, innovation, and fishing success. And by Procure Bait Sense, ruthlessly effective.